a party. And we are telling Kikuyus, Mr. Speaker. We are telling Kikuyus. You know, Kikuyus, they have problems when they are not in power. You know, they cry a lot. We are not in power today, but we are not crying. Mr. Speaker, from our place in Homa Bay, Migori, we only have one cabinet secretary, and we are not crying, Mr. Speaker. Luos people are not crying. They were supposed to be given 30%. They were not given. They were been given only 2%, and they are not crying, Mr. Speaker. But these people, the Mundu Ferrandis, Mr. Speaker, they have been given 47%. Mr. Speaker, am I okay? I'm okay. Okay, sir. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity that you have given me, Mr. Speaker. I've looked at the murder. There are around 3 murders, Mr. Speaker, and I only want to talk about one murder, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to only talk about one murder, Mr. Speaker, about the future of azimio. Mr. Speaker, the politics of this country is very dynamic. Mr. Speaker, it changes. And it is common, Mr. Speaker, it is ubiquitous. It is very common for people to change parties. Mr. Speaker, if you read the history of this country and the political parties' history of this country, Mr. Speaker, from 1922, Mr. Speaker, we have been having different parties, Mr. Speaker. And we know that the parties that are going to come in 2026 are going to be very new, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 1922, Mr. Speaker, there is this guy called Ariduku. He had his party. His party was called Young Kikuyu Association. Mr. Speaker, in 1950, they started what is called Mau Mau movement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mau Mau movement did not change to be a party. In 1963, we had 2 parties, KANU and KADU, Mr. Speaker. And then when we go on like that, in 1992, Mr. Speaker, is when we had what is called multi-party, Mr. Speaker. And then we had CORD, so many, not CORDs, but Ford, so many Fords, Ford Kenya, Ford what? There were so many, Mr. Speaker. In 1997, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Raila Odinga came up with the NDP, Mr. Speaker. So we have been having so many different parties, Mr. Speaker. In 2002, there was a wave of NAC, Mr. Speaker. It went like that. Even Raila Odinga has been having so many parties. In 2013, Mr. Speaker, we had CORD. In 2017, we had what is called NASA. Mr. Speaker, last year, Mr. Speaker, last year we had azimio, and the other side had what is called, they are calling it ODA, and I don't know, it is called ODA and Kenya Kwanza, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are still struggling to go to Canaan, and the more we are struggling to go to Canaan, is the more that we are going to form so many parties in this country, Mr. Speaker, because we have a problem in this country. The problem we have now has been brought about by us electing a government which cannot see beyond the nose, Mr. Speaker. I'm very simple today. Mr. Speaker, the government of Mundu Perandi, the government of William Samoei Ruto is a Mundu Perandi. It's a Ladas Kankawa, Mr. Speaker. It's a government which cannot even do what? It cannot deliver the promises that it gave to people. Mr. William Samoei Ruto is the president. Mr. William Ruto is the vice president. Mr. William Ruto is the cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, William Samoei Ruto has delegated some duties to some people that cannot deliver to this country. The cabinet secretaries that William Ruto is having today in this country, Mr. Speaker, cannot lead us to have a good development in this country, Mr. Speaker, because they are poor. They are not leaders, Mr. Speaker. They cannot even formulate policies. That is why we are asking Baba Raila Odinga in 2027, Mr. Speaker, we are going to form a party, and we are telling Kikuyus, Mr. Speaker. We are telling Kikuyus. You know, Kikuyus, they have problems when they are not in power. You know, they cry a lot. We are not in power today, but we are not crying. Mr. Speaker, from our place in Homa Bay, in Homa Bay, Migori, we only have one cabinet secretary, and we are not crying, Mr. Speaker. Luos people are not crying. They were supposed to be given 30%. They were not given. They have been given only 2%, and they are not crying, Mr. Speaker. But these people, the Mundu Ferrandis, Mr. Speaker, they have been given 47% of the state jobs in this country, and they are crying like they want that president to give them too much. Mr. Speaker, the problem that we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, is people from the central. It is high time they learn that they cannot be the president for this country. They have been president for this country for 35 years. It is high time, Mr. Speaker, they learn that other tribes can also lead, Mr. Speaker. And we are asking Kalonzo Musyoka, we are asking Jakoya, we are asking Baba Raila Molo Odinga, Dominicus dominates, Baba Raila Molo Odinga that will dominate outside and inside and even within, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to form a formidable force, a force that is going to take William Samoei Ruto to Sigoi and is going to hang himself. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Number 5, please.